Carlos Castaneda, in one of his books, says there are only three kinds of behaviors in this control drama, only three kinds of people: the nice, the nasty, and the indifferent. And in order to go beyond the reactive response, you have to actually, as Wayne was saying a few minutes ago, go beyond the stimulus and the response into the little space that's there between the stimulus and the response, where the witness resides. And in Vedic terms, that witness is referred to as Sakshi. It's the non-judgmental, independent of the good opinion of others and of all opinions, witness that knows not how to judge or label or define or describe or evaluate or analyze, but just witness. And in the mere witnessing of it, to go beyond the reactive response. And that's much of what we practice through all the spiritual disciplines, including meditation, is to how to get in touch with that witness, to become the independent, non-evaluative, non-analytical, non-judgmental witness of whatever is happening. This response, which in a sense began to be elicited by the human nervous system about 6,000 years ago. And it's very interesting that as soon as the human nervous system developed this ability about 6,000 years ago, with the dawn of the age of agriculture, because man or woman or human beings were no longer having to always guard themselves against predators, and there was a little bit of time to go into this restful awareness. Around this time, we had the emergence around the globe of what are called the axial sages. Moses and Buddha and Lao Tzu and Confucius and Socrates and Parmenides and all the great seers arose around the same time throughout the world. They're known as the axial sages, and much later than Christ and all the great prophets that we look back to came around the same time, as soon as St. Paul, around the same time as we started to elicit the restful awareness response. Beyond the restful awareness response, the human nervous system developed yet another ability, which is best called the intuitive response. The intuitive response is to go into a mode of awareness where not only can you have that ability to witness, but you have the ability to do what Wayne was saying, ask. You ask in that restful awareness, in that gap, in that transcendent reality, you ask the question. Whatever that question is, or you ask for the gift that you want. And in the mere asking of it, there's a connection with the cosmic mind, because you've transcended space-time into a timeless reality in the restful awareness response. You've sent a message to the unified field, and I'll explain what that unified field is in a moment. And that message is now being computed by cosmic intelligence, and the answer is coming from there. So intuition is a mode of intelligence that goes beyond the rational mind. Intuition is a mode of intelligence that is contextual and relational and holistic. It doesn't have a win-lose orientation. It is never based on direct cause and effect. It assumes that for any one thing to happen in our lives, there is a conspiracy of the whole universe. So if this woman gets a cold, it's because she's inviting a pathogen that every one of us is exposed to, but she's already laid the grounds for a different kind of conspiracy. No illness, by the way, is ever due to a pathogen. That's a very, very misleading kind of idea in medicine, that pneumococcal pneumonia occurs because of pneumococcus, or that AIDS occurs because of HIV infection, or that cancer occurs from carcinogen, because lots of us are exposed all the time to all these things, whether they're viruses or carcinogens. Illness is always a conspiracy of improbabilities. It's a susceptible host that falls prey to a pathogen. And what we can do is to not be a susceptible host is go beyond these responses, these fear-engendered responses. Intuition really is the kind of intelligence that taps into the cosmic mind. So that's the fourth kind of response that we have the ability to elicit. First one was fight-flight, the second one was reactive, the third one was restful awareness, the fourth is intuitive. The fifth response, which even goes beyond the intuitive response, is the creative response. As a result of that insight, in the result of the knowingness that you have, as a result of asking the question and placing the intention, is now the ability to create something that never existed before. The creative response, which is a purely human attribute, because we are made in the image of the Creator, it's a purely human attribute to create something that actually never existed until the moment you create it, whatever that is, whether it's a poem or a piece of music or a scientific discovery, whatever. Beyond the creative response is yet another response, which is the visionary response, which is to have a vision of possibilities that never existed before as a result of your creation. The visionary response is, I have a dream and I know how to manifest that dream. And it begins with a very little small incident. Mahatma Gandhi is in a train in South Africa and he's thrown out of it because he has too much melanin in his skin as compared to the English over there. And he suddenly has the vision and the dream that ultimately leads to the demise of the British Empire. Or Rosa Parks is sitting in the back of a bus and she's asked to move in Mississippi, Alabama, and she suddenly has the vision and the civil rights movement is born. The visionary response, which goes even beyond the creative response. And then way beyond that is something called the sacred response, which is really what manifestation is all about, is to ask yourself, where's all this creation coming from? What's the source of it? Wayne was mentioning poets, and this is something that Wayne and I have in common, that we really, really admire the great poets of our civilization, because poetry in many ways is a raid on the inarticulate. It goes to the source of creation itself. And a great Indian poet, Rabindranath Tagore, one day he was looking at a field of flowers and he wrote this poem where he says, where is the fountain? Where is the fountain that throws out these flowers in such a ceaseless outbreak of ecstasy? Where's this coming from? What's the source of creation? And we all have our own kind of interpretations of it, but the source of creation is beyond interpretation. The source of creation is that ultimate ground of creation where we all come from. And in traditional religions, that ground of creation has been referred to, of course, as the cosmic being or God, or the source of everything that we consider sacred. And depending on what time we are living in, the interpretation of how we define that cosmic being, in a sense, begins to change. It's not really important how we interpret that, as long as we realize that there is a cosmic intelligence, that there is a cosmic being, and we who think are expressions of, contained in, and a product of that cosmic being. So it's not like we are outside, we are inside the whole scheme of things. The human mind, which tries to understand the mind of the Creator, is itself a product of, contained within, and an expression of that mind. So the more you can understand your own mind, you start to eavesdrop on the nature of that mind. There's a prayer that Saint Augustine had. He said, all my life I've been knocking at the door